Hey everybody, it's Leroy from Leroy Gaming, and today I'm bringing you my Last Epoch guide to crafting in 2022. So whether you're a brand new player trying out Last Epoch for the first time, or you're coming back after a break, this crafting system has really developed over the last year to year and a half to be very, very user-friendly. If you are coming over from Path of Exile or Diablo 3, or other action RPGs, you will be hopefully pleasantly surprised how effective and flexible this system is. Now, it can be a little bit intimidating at first, but it is a system that you can start using almost right away. So in this video, I'm going to go over everything you need to know to get started, about answers to questions like, when do you start crafting, what to focus on early and kind of mid-game, and also the things that you shouldn't stress out about as much. So if you're interested in that, keep watching. If you do end up liking this video, want to see more videos about Last Epoch from me, make sure to drop a like and give me a comment below. Let me know what you want me to cover. There's so much I'd like to cover, but I don't know what you guys are looking for, so do let me know. Without further ado, let's go ahead and jump in and take a look at what crafting is all about here in Last Epoch. All right, guys, so let's jump right in and take a look at the crafting system. For those of you that are brand new, you can literally press F to bring out your forge. And I do want to quickly point out something in the upper left-hand corner. It is your View Material tab. Now, what I really like about this crafting inventory is that it is shared across all of your characters, which is really, really helpful. And it also doesn't take up any inventory in your actually inventory box once you actually put everything into this system. So I wanted to show this as an example. When you pick up components, and they're going to look like this, they're always going to look this kind of, I don't know, brownish bronze color. What's nice is if you click on them, it'll AOE pick everything up. And then all you want to do is periodically click down here, transfer crafting regions or crafting items, and it'll go into that collective inventory. And now when you go into Forge, you're going to see all of your materials. Now, I want to point out, if you are new, it can be very easy to get overwhelmed and say, oh my goodness, look at all of these different options. Do not stress about this. What's kind of nice is you can always see how much of each of these materials you have. If you want, you can split between prefixes. Those are going to be the left buffs that you're going to get, and suffixes. And they have a nice little search bar, but again, don't be overwhelmed about this, because I'm going to go over with you right now how you should address the different type of items early on. And when I say beginner gameplay, that's basically level 1 to 75. A level 75 is kind of when I say you hit the end game, because you're going to max out all your skills and you're going to be kind of grinding for min-max gear and pushing towards level 100 at that point. So let's take a look at how we craft an item. Now, you may have the question of, well, what kind of items should you craft? It is important to note that you cannot craft or modify any of the unique items. There is an advanced feature that I will cover in a different video where you can basically merge a item like this, these purple items, with the legendaries to buff them, but that's a more advanced topic. So really what you're going to be upgrading are either these rare items and the purple items. Now, you're not going to start getting these purple items until the high 50s and 60s, so you may not know everything about that, but you do not have to wait till endgame to start crafting. So let's take a look at what it looks like when you put an item into the crafting spot here. And right off the bat, what you're going to notice is this game is going to assess your prefixes and affixes, and you may not know which is which right off the bat, but that's okay. The game will automatically select. So you'll notice here, it identified melee attack speed as a prefix. And you'll notice there's one extra open slot here. And then for your suffixes, you're going to notice you have chance to apply frailty on melee hit and damage over time for minions. Now, each one of these can be anywhere from tier 1 to tier 5 for non-purple affixes, and we'll talk about that in just a bit. So you'll notice on this item right off the bat, you have one that's already maxed out. You cannot upgrade this any further. And there is a tier 2 that can be upgraded all the way up to tier 5 and a tier 3. Now, what is important to know when you mouse over the actual item is you're going to notice right there, and I can't really click over to it, but right below where it says base attack rating and melee physical damage near the picture, there's something called forging potential. That number is important because every time you try to do an upgrade, there is a chance you're going to lose a certain number of this. It could be anywhere from 0, and sometimes you'll see it could be like 10 or even 15. So it is possible if you have bad luck, you can do 1 or 2 bad crafts and basically not be able to craft anymore. Once your forging potential is 0, you cannot make any additions. So the first thing you want to do when you identify an item is you want to find an item that at the very least is a type that you want. So let's just say, theoretically speaking, I wanted a 2-hander. I'm focusing on physical damage and I'm a crit build. Well, this is pretty good because you'll notice this comes with a 49 melee physical damage plus 4% melee critical strike chance. So that's great baseline. And then when we look at our modifiers, I always like to have at least one of these 2 prefixes set up as one that I want. Now, some people may say that it's best to have all 4 pieces set, but I actually like setups like this because I know I want melee attack speed, but it would be nice to select another one manually. So we'll go over that right now. So let's say you click this plus button here. It lets you select any of these options that are not gray. Now there will be limitations depending on the spots, but for example, since I selected prefix, look at all these options. We already have melee attack speed, so it's currently applied. So we can put any of these other ones that we have the materials for. And for example, because we're going a melee build, it would make sense to do melee physical damage. So you click on that, and now what it's going to do is going to highlight, and basically this is saying is once we hit upgrade, it is going to have a chance to upgrade this to tier 1 or potentially 2, and it's going to cost you between 1 and 18 forging potential. Remember, that's what that 25 forging potential is all about. So if you get really unlucky, you can basically waste 3/4 of your forging potential in one attempt. That would be horrible. Now, this is where these little modifiers come into play. You may notice there's this little scroll here. When you click on it, there are 4 different ones. And you're going to start gathering these just like you do the materials as you go through the game. And the one that you're going to care about 9 out of 10 times is Glyph of Hope. I never ever recommend crafting anything if you're just trying to get an upgrade without at least having this on, because you'll notice it's going to give you a 25% chance to have no forging potential cost. But also, when this procs, sometimes you get this crit effect, which will give you additional benefit. It could basically level up a secondary suffix or prefix an extra level. It can give you extra bonuses. So this is really, really key. So you never ever want to have this clear, in my opinion. Now, there are 3 others, and I want to quickly go over them. This one right here, Glyph of Chaos, is kind of interesting because you're going to use this in a very particular situation. Notice it says it randomly changes the upgrade affix to a different one that can spawn on that item affix. So I'll show you how this is effective in just a second. But for now, as an example, we're going to do Glyph of Hope, and I'm going to hit upgrade. And notice this was a little rough. That didn't go too great. We got a plus 11 melee physical damage. So that's tier 1, but we lost 10 of our forging potential. So we're down to 15. Not so great. Now at this point, if all I care about here is maximizing these 2 prefixes, and more often than not in this situation, these are the most important affixes or prefixes for myself. The suffixes, more often than not, as you're going to notice here, they are going to be either chance on hits or resistances, especially for armor. So these are great, but I always, early levels, leveling up, I want to basically modify things that would directly increase my DPS, my damage per second. And so flat damage increases or attack speed are really big. So let's go ahead and do just a second example here. I'm going to try and upgrade melee physical damage again. Click it again, make sure Glyph of Hope is up, and let's see if we get lucky by chance. So that one, again, man, we did not do good. Another 7 melee physical damage, -9 forging potential. We're down to 6. Let's push our luck, see if we can get that up again. And here we go. This is what we were looking for. Critical success. So you'll notice +1 to your melee physical damage. You're going to get +16 melee physical damage. This went from 2, I believe, all the way to 4. But what's great about this is this critical success preserved forging potential and crafting materials. So you didn't utilize any of the crafting materials necessary for that, which is really, really important. Now, this critical can happen at any time. You could also get lucky and, for example, get it to not be a critical effect, but it will say that your Glyph of Hope basically procced, and what it would have done is it preserved the forging potential. So there's that, for example. And again, we can do it one more time, and why not? Now, do note that you do use materials normally when you level this up. You're going to get so many of these materials. I don't stress out about it too much. I have rarely run into situations where I run out of materials. I guess if you do craft a ton, you could run low on them. But this is something where I haven't had too many issues. And you don't have to like update, for example, your weapon that often. But let's just quickly take a look at the final chance here. And there we go. We got +12 again. Now we got down to 0. But now we have a max tier 5 melee physical damage. And this item, let's say, you know, in a given scenario, +46 melee damage, 20% melee attack speed, +49 melee physical damage from the base weapon. This is not a bad weapon at all. Now let's take a look at the other glyphs, namely Glyph of Chaos. When would you use this? So I'm going to go ahead and put a different item in here that I found. Here's this ring. Now this ring right here, my current build is actually all around minion damage and basically pets. And resistances are something that's always nice to have. So you'll notice this comes with a purple suffix that's already tier 6. It's maxed out, can't get it higher, and already is 1 tier higher than any manual upgrade. Now you'll notice this has all 4 slots that are taken. So when all 4 are taken, you have a couple options of what you can do. So the first option here is you can click on, let's say, necrotic damage, because I don't care about necrotic damage. I'm not about that. Option number 2, Glyph of Chaos. It doesn't help with preservation. You don't get that 25%, but it basically lets you re-roll and it'll pick something different. It is random, but if you absolutely hate what this is, that is one way of getting around that risk and hoping to roll something that is more beneficial. So let's go ahead. We're going to select the Glyph of Chaos. We're going to select this, and again, we're going to try and upgrade and roll. We have a forging potential of 34 here. And when you upgrade, there we go. Notice what it said. It increased our minion health by 138%. We lost our necrotic damage, and notice we also got lucky. We hit a critical success, preserved forging potential, and crafting material. Now, we have a maxed out because notice it went +1. So when +3 would have normally gone to +4 because it crit, it went all the way to +5 for free. This is kind of a god roll when it comes to re-rolling because we didn't know we were going to get minion health. It was probably the best for this potential ring for this build in this case, but it's not guaranteed. Do note that, but I've had this happen more than you think. It's also not guaranteed to happen every time you upgrade. With that being said, I believe I've had it change every time, if not like 99% of the time. I don't know if that's a bug or if I'm really, really lucky, but that's how you use that item. Now there is a third glyph that technically I can situationally recommend for a beginner, and that is Glyph of Despair. And let's take a look at the scenario where we potentially use this. So I have a different ring here, a random ring, and let's say we have a scenario where we have necrotic damage on this, and for what we also have physical resistance and dodge rating. And let's just say that we want to change physical resistance, but we don't want to randomly roll it. We don't mind that we have tier 2 physical resistance. So what we want to do instead is go on here and we want to do Glyph of Despair. So when we click this, what we're going to have a chance to do is basically, if this rolls correctly, it will take this tier 2 and bring it down here and lock it out and then open up the spot. So if we can, let's see if we can get this to work. So what you noticed here is we got a critical success, and so we did something unexpected. But again, it's a nice example for crafting. We got another crit. I'm sure getting a lot of crits on this instructional videos. This doesn't happen this often normally. He gave us +8 physical resistance, so went tier 3, so this technically failed. We got also a 4% increase in necrotic damage, so this upgraded for free. We didn't use any materials, and we have full potential as well. Now let's try that again, because again, we're really trying to lock this out. So let's see if we can get it to work. So again, upgrade. We failed, and we actually there shot ourselves in the foot again a little bit because we lost 13 forging. Let's try it again. And so in this case, we only lost 1 forging potential, but this again did not successfully do this Glyph of Despair. This is a risk we take. With that being said, we only lost 1 potential and distance isn't bad. So there is an inherent risk here. So let's go ahead and see, because we have some more forging potential here. Let's see if we can make an example on the left side here. So we want necrotic, and let's just say theoretically we had something on here that we were okay with. We didn't necessarily want to change, but I want to lock it out. So as an example, we're going to go ahead and just put some intelligence on here. So just let's pretend that this was on here already, but we're going to go ahead and upgrade that. So we have tier 1 intelligence. Now let's see if we can try and Glyph of Despair that off of there and seal it instead. So we're going to give that a quick shot. So let's go ahead and give it an upgrade. And there we go. It worked. Glyph of Despair sealed intelligence at tier 1. -9 forging cost us. We have 3 left. So what this basically allows us to do, notice it goes off to the side, and we can now add something else. So let's say we really wanted spell damage on there. And we'll go ahead and now swap back over to Glyph of Hope. And we're going to upgrade. And there we go. We succeeded. We still have 1 forging. We're going to be able to get it 1 more time to potentially tier 2, for example. So when would you want to do this? Well, you want to do this when you don't really hate that prefix or suffix you have, but you really want another one that's very specific. Because remember, the alternative would be that we could use the Glyph of Chaos, and it would potentially swap it to something else, but there is no guarantee that that intelligence would reroll as a spell damage. And if everything else was a disappointment for us, this would be a very poor kind of statistical chance of getting that, because take a look at all these different prefixes. These are all the potential prefixes that could have rolled. So you are really playing a high-risk game. By locking them out using Glyph of Despair, it basically, if it succeeds, guarantees you that extra spot, and then you can manually pick whatever you want. So you can use those same tactics for prefixes, and then for min-maxing or for whatever other purpose you have, if you just want to swap something out because you got a horrible roll, you can do the same thing with suffixes. Just remember, you're still at the mercy of that forging limitations. The nice thing is, as long as you have at least 1 forging potential, you can still upgrade them at least once. Do also note that how many times you can upgrade this is based on your level. So on my current character here, as you can kind of see, we have a character that's level 79. So we can have quite a few upgrades. When you're doing this at low levels, you're going to notice that you can only upgrade a couple times, and then I'll say at the bottom, for next upgrade, you need to be level 48 or 55 or 60 or whatever it may be. So that is a key element to that crafting. So that is all the talk about support runes. But you'll notice there is also a button down here. And so what are these? So what these are, as you're going to see here, these are modifier runes. And you're going to use them in very particular situations. So let's take a look at the ones that are important for beginners. And if you click on here, there's a variety of them. And there's a couple that you're going to use more often than not. The one that is the most commonly used is going to be the Rune of Shattering. And basically what this does is this is a way to disenchant or break down or shatter your items. So let's say you basically crafted an item, you've outgrown it, and now you want to get some of these components back. Or because what you get back is based on what's in here, you can also target farm, technically, your specific kind of modifier, affix and suffix, or prefix and suffix runes by breaking down random gear you have that has the stats that you have that you need. So what's also important is the more upgraded an item is, the more likely it's going to return one or more of these components. So let's go ahead and take a look at what happens. We're going to put that in here, Rune of Shattering, hit Shatter. Notice 3 melee physical damage shards, 4 damage on time, 1 melee attack speed, 3 chance to apply frailty. All those got applied. And you can do that to any of the items, obviously. So that is the first one. Do note that you can buy these off vendors. So they're pretty much infinite. And it's a good way early on in the game to get more of your materials. Okay, now I do want to make a few comments about a couple of the other modifier runes, even though most of them are not what I would call really beginner runes. So, for example, you have a rune that is called the Rune of Refinement. Now, you do get a lot of these. You'll notice I have 156 of them currently. And what they do is reroll all the values of all affixes on an item within their tiers. So what does this mean? Basically, if you mouse over the item and hold Alt, you're going to notice that within their tier, there's going to be a range that this could have scored on. So for example, you'll notice here under increased necrotic damage, we could be between 31 and 39%. We are currently at 33, so that's kind of low. For the increased spell damage, it's 6 to 12. We're at 11, that's really high. For physical resistance, we're between 30 and 45, 38, right in the middle. And then for your tier 6 dodge rating, which is my special one here, between 100 and 125, that is kind of low at 107. So as an example, if you were to use this, what it's going to do is going to reroll all those principles. And my rule of thumb is that if all, or maybe all but one of these rules are relatively low, this may very well be worth it. Maybe even if 2. But do remember that this still does utilize a potential modification time. So you are losing forging potential. Now, because I'm going to be disenchanting this and breaking this down anyway, I'll use this as an example. So let's take a look at how this rolls. So we select the Rune of Refinement. And at this point, let's go ahead and hit the Rune of Refinement and see what happens. So refined, we lost that final rune potential. Now let's take a look. My necrotic damage is at 33. So I believe that's what it was, or may have gone down. The increased spell damage, not surprising, dropped to 8. It was at 11, so that was a net loss. Physical resistance did go up to 41 now. And unfortunately, dodge rating also only went up 2 to 109. Now, I didn't mention earlier, but you'll notice at the top, it has a range for your, right below where it says ring, to elemental resistances on this ring. But note, this is not a base affix. So it is not a prefix or a suffix, so that's not going to reroll. Do want to point that out, but all the other ones could have. So in this case, this was a poor reroll. It could have gone really well, but it didn't. Now, quick note about the other ones. There is Rune of Removal, where it removes a random affix. I rarely use this because there is always the chance that you're going to lose an affix that you really, really care about. And you still could potentially lose your forging potential. So the only time I would see this would be useful is, let's say, maybe 3 out of the 4 are bad. But in those cases, you're already probably not going to craft that item. You want to have at least, I would say 2 potentially items that you either roll or you re-roll to be accurate. So this one's a little off. It can be used in specialized cases, but again, not really a beginner tool. The Rune of Discovery is very interesting because this is just going to add a bunch of random tier 1 FXs. I think this is horrible, honestly. If you had a bunch of openings, I guess you can get multiple affixes for the price of 1. But it's one of those things, because it is random, it's really, you're playing the lottery here. So I'm not a huge fan for beginning tactics. Rune of Shaping rerolls all implicits on an item. Now the Rune Shaping is going to roll the implicits on an item. So let's go ahead and take a look at this ring I put in here. Again, the implicits are the base kind of effects that are in the upper right hand corner, right below ring. For the implicit on this one is 7% elemental resistance. It can be between 5 and 18. So we can go ahead and re-roll that with this, and let's give it a shot, because it was naturally very, very low. Again, I don't use this very often, but situationally, if everything else is really good, this could be quite useful. So let's see what happens. And also, we will go ahead and apply Glyph of Hope, because again, this will impact this as well. So more likely to have a no forging cost, which would be great on this. So let's give it a shot. So we'll hit shape. And so it did increase by 3% from 7 to 10% resistances. It could have been a lot better, obviously up to 18, and it did cost us 9 forging. So whether that was worth it to you or not, obviously will depend on the results and how important those implicits are. So that's what that one is for. Now, these last two are extremely rare. You notice I only have 5 and 4 of these respectively. Rune of Ascendance can be awesome, but it is random. It changes the item into a unique or set item of the same item type. So basically, if you put a ring in here, it'll be a ring. If you're going to put a one-handed sword, it's going to give you a one-handed sword, unique or set piece. If you are farming for a very specific item and you know the item type, you would use this, and then you have a chance, not a beginner thing. You could theoretically use this to get like a random unique chest piece if you're beginning and you want to fill something of unique. But because these are so rare, you probably won't have a ton, so I don't recommend that. And then Rune of Creation, it duplicates the item, but it reduces the forging potential of both the original and a copy to 0. So what this is really good for, and again, this is not a beginner tool, is if you get a perfect item that you've kind of put together, that you want to get a second option for, you've already maxed it out, and maybe you have some forging left over or whatnot, and you basically create a duplicate, and then you can apply that ultimate item, let's just say, to one of your advanced crafts when you combine it with a unique to get a legendary item. And again, that'll be covered under advanced crafting. So those are all the icons, but again, as a beginner, you're mainly going to care about Rune of Shattering. Feel free to use them as much as you want to get materials. So I hope that helps you guys out, and I hope this wasn't too confusing. Again, feel free to craft early, craft often, and make sure to break down and shatter items, all the items that you can that have stats that you care about. So again, if you're a melee physical damage build, if an item has melee physical damage, break it down. If you're a pet build, any items that have damage increases to pets or health, etc., break those down, and it's going to help build up your material. Again, if you just keep playing, you're going to get a good amount of these over and over because they're so easy to loot. All right, with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this guide. My name is Leroy with Leroy Gaming here. If you did enjoy this content, make sure to like, subscribe, check out my Discord channel listed below. If you have any questions, pop up in there or drop a comment below. I do read over these videos, comments, and try and answer them as best I can. And as always, guys, I will go ahead and see you guys in the next video.